I remember WrestleMania 6 being in my locker room, painting my face, about halfway done, and the production guys came and they knocked on the door and they came in. And I was looking in the mirror at them and they said, "Hey, Warrior, we've got a cart to take you to the ring." And I just looked at them and I said, "I'm running to the ring, the Ultimate Warrior." That was actually fun.
From high atop the battlements of Castle Curmudgeon, where you can be assured that not only will everybody have fun tonight, but indeed, everybody will Wang Chung tonight. Good evening, Mr. and Mrs. America, and all ships in the Strait of Hormuz. Welcome to the Blast Radius. We could not be happier to have you with us. In fact, there is a non-zero chance that we might shit ourselves with glee. So what are we talking about tonight? Well, I don't have a field guide for you. I don't have a news roundup or a top 100 list, but you know what I do have? I got some things I want to get off my chest. So, which should we do first, war or wrestling? Or we could just veer wildly back and forth between the one and the other. In fact, that sounds kind of fun, so let's just go ahead and do that. Did I watch the first night of WrestleMania 42? I did. Did I pay the $30 for the ESPN package that you're supposed to pay for in order to watch the thing? I can't recall. Memory's a bit murky on that one. Just like when Mrs. Swalwell asked her husband, "Honey, how many underage whores did you sodomize on your fact-finding trip to South America?" And then Mr. Swalwell says, "No, God damn it, I reject these scurrilous attacks on my character because me and those underage whores only did vaginal. And by God, I have got the video to prove it." Now, does WrestleMania need to be 2 nights long? No, I don't think it really does. Does WrestleMania even need to be 1 night? Sometimes that's unclear, but let's put things into perspective right off the bat. Night 1 of WrestleMania was a show that lasted around 4 hours. It contained 7 wrestling matches. The longest match went around 15 minutes. To put it another way, there was less than 90 minutes of wrestling in a 4-hour show called WrestleMania. And half of that was women's wrestling. But that's not important now, because I really love women's wrestling a lot. I think it's great, especially the Japanese women. My favorite episodes of Monday Night Raw are the ones where nearly all of the matches involve Japanese women, and Lady Curmudgeon will back me up on this. In fact, she might love the Japanese girl matches even more than I do. And the promos, they are even better, by God, when they spend 3 or 4 minutes shit talking each other and it's impossible to understand anything of what they just said. Frankly, it would be a lot better if they handled it like they used to do with Taka Michinoku and Sho Funaki back in the day when they voiced over their promos in the style of an old Bruce Lee movie. And if you know what I'm talking about, I am sure you will join me in saying, indeed. The point being, there is under 90 minutes of goddamn wrestling in your 4-hour goddamn wrestling show that's named goddamn WrestleMania. And this is not ideal. What does the majority of the show, the vast majority of the show, get taken up with? Entrances and commercials. Now, back in my day, when dinosaurs roamed the earth, there were a couple of truisms you could always rely on. There's no crying in baseball, and there's no goddamn commercials in WrestleMania. Why are there no commercials in WrestleMania? Because when you pay money to watch an event, part of the bargain is supposed to be that you don't have to sit through 20 minutes of commercials every hour like you would if you were watching an event on normal broadcast television. Traditionally at WrestleMania, there would be product promotion, but it would be in-show and in-universe. If they were doing a Slim Jim spot or some other such thing, they would do a backstage segment. They would have a couple of current-day wrestlers do some little comedy sketch with a couple of old-timers. And it didn't matter if it was a commercial spot because you put a bit of creative effort into it and the people were entertained. That is a decidedly different thing than charging $30 to watch an event and still having the same amount of commercials that you do on your weekly broadcast shows. And hey, call me a party pooper. It wouldn't be the first time, but maybe, just maybe, not every performer needs to have a 4-minute, 5-minute long entrance, because I'm going to let you in on a secret. When you're doing a 6-man tag match, or a 6-lady tag match, as the case may be, and then all 6 of them enter separately, and each one's got a 4-minute walk-up, that is nearly 1/2 hour of entrances, which looks even sillier when it winds up being like a 9-minute match, is all I'm saying. And when the build-up to WrestleMania is as lackluster and shambolic as it was this year, when the biggest narrative around the event is centered on the fact that you had to slash ticket prices 3 times and you still couldn't sell out either night of the event, even after artificially reducing the capacity of the venue, I feel like it's not the best time to put out a televised product that consists of 40% entrances, 35% commercials, and 25% wrestling matches that nobody cares about because the writers forgot how to write good wrestling angles. But as important as that all is, we need to talk about Iran. Because I think it's time to be honest about the fact that this thing has not played out in a strategically optimal fashion. I mean, let's call things what they are. When you launch a decapitation strike, it typically is not with the intent of leaving a regime in place. When you launch a decapitation strike, you're trying to do a very specific thing. You're trying to create a power vacuum in the hopes that somebody better than the last guy is well positioned to fill said vacuum and begin wielding power in a more agreeable, more rational, more civilized fashion. Would it have been great if things worked out that way in this case? Yes, obviously it would have, but they did not. And we do ourselves no favors by not confronting that fact head on. Bottom line, if at the end of this thing, the Islamic Republic of Iran remains extant and we find ourselves accepting their assurances on anything, this reporter would have an extremely difficult time characterizing that as a victory. In fact, as far as I'm concerned, the Islamic Republic of Iran earned the right to be destroyed when they kidnapped U.S. diplomats from a U.S. embassy and tortured them for 444 days. And they really, really, really earned the right to be destroyed when the Lebanese arm of their World Terror Network blew up 241 U.S. Marines in Beirut. Was that stuff a long time ago? Yes. But an unpaid debt is an unpaid debt. In fact, their desire to build a nuclear bomb, so far as I'm concerned, is only an ancillary reason why the regime should be destroyed. Do I think it's a good thing that the current U.S. leadership seems generally aligned with my way of thinking? Well, yeah, of course I do. But the fact remains the best case scenario that we hoped for, that we were trying to bring about, has not materialized. For by all appearances, though it has suffered fairly devastating losses in materiel and personnel alike, the Islamic Republic of Iran remains stubbornly in existence and fully in control of all the organs and levers of power. According to recent reports, we did make an attempt, and by we, I mean probably the CIA, to get weapons into the hands of the dissidents and potential insurgents in Iran's big cities whom we would like to see step into the power vacuum we were seeking to create. But here's the trouble with trying to get weapons into the hands of people in a country that you yourself cannot enter. You need an intermediary, and he might just keep the weapons for himself. which appears to be what happened here. We gave the Kurds some guns and ammo and equipment and politely asked them to get it where it needs to go. In addition, probably we gave them some cash for their trouble, and the Kurds said, yep, you got it, no problem. We will transport this stuff to where you want it to go, and we will not keep any of it for ourselves. And it has to be said, it's hard to begrudge the Kurds the right to be a little bit duplicitous here, given the number of bargains that we have broken with those guys over the years. They have supported us and allied with us in all of our various Middle Eastern military adventures, often at great cost to themselves. And in return, we have given them a series of ultimately false assurances that we would help them achieve their dream of an independent Kurdish nation state, which is weird because we should really be quite eager to live up to those assurances. It would benefit our cause immeasurably and the cause of world peace more broadly if there existed a U.S. ally with a population of 30 million that was straddling the borders of present-day Iran, Iraq, and Syria. But hey, let's just continue keeping those lovely post-World War I borders intact and fully sacrosanct, the ones that were drawn up during a Franco-British cocktail party in 1919. I'm sure it'll be fine. So if you're the Kurds, knowing what you know about how much American assurances are actually worth, you're probably saying, if we take these guns and ammo down to Tehran and give it to God knows who, isn't there a significantly non-zero chance that those guns wind up being pointed at us one day? But look, it's easy to lament the things that haven't gone to plan. The fact of the matter is, we have to play the board that is before us with the pieces where they actually are. Is this reporter ready to put his money where his mouth is and propose his own strategic vision for how best to proceed? Well, you bet your sweet butt he is. If it's our intention to leave the dramatically weakened rump of the Islamic Republic in place, and it looks like it might be, the first thing we should do is seize Karg Island with extreme prejudice and turn it into the American Gibraltar. For the behavior of the Iranians might markedly improve if they could never again export a single drop of oil except at the pleasure of the United States. Control of Karg Island and a permanent naval presence there would mean absolute control of the Strait of Hormuz and, by extension, the Persian Gulf and the Gulf of Oman. Why do we want that control? Well, first and foremost, because our Navy is the world's guarantor of freedom of navigation on the high seas. Second, but just as importantly, would be the ability to shut off the tap on Iranian oil exports at a moment's notice at any time of our choosing. The other Gulf states, they can continue exporting oil at their leisure, and we will be there to guarantee them safe passage. But for the Iranians, we will have their balls in a jar. Their ability to export their most valuable resource will be contingent on us being satisfied with their behavior. Furthermore, the Iranian Navy will be abolished. Those guys can go learn to code or learn to be goat herders. Either way is fine with me. Karg Island would be a stone frigate, an immovable aircraft carrier, a permanent forward operating base. That means we don't have to dispatch a carrier task group from the Atlantic or the Mediterranean each time trouble pops off in that part of the world that requires our attention. But we wouldn't just have Iran's balls in a jar. Who else's balls we would have in a jar? The freaking Chi-Coms. Now try to cause trouble in our hemisphere? No Iranian oil for you. Get any ideas about making a move on Taiwan? No Iranian oil for you. Do any damn other thing that isn't to our liking? No Iranian oil for you, and no goddamn soup either. So what does this all have to do with WrestleMania? That's a good question. And the answer is, because next year's WrestleMania is in Saudi Arabia, and Saudi Arabia also borders the Persian Gulf. So boom, there you go. We have established the linkage. You're welcome. And one can't help wondering if Saudi Mania is going to wind up actually being a thing. After all, this year's WrestleMania, the one that's going on right now as we speak, it was supposed to be in New Orleans. It wasn't until after last year's show that they decided, let's just go back to Vegas and do it there for a second year in a row. Which doesn't look like the world's most prudent decision in retrospect. I mean, since you had to reduce capacity and cut the ticket prices over and over and over again and all that stuff, we know based on live attendance that the Saudi shows are getting less and less popular with the Saudi population. They built a dedicated temporary stadium for this year's Royal Rumble, and around a third of the people who attended showed up dressed like empty seats. It was, needless to say, not a very good look. Now, if the hope was that lots of Westerners were going to go on holiday to Saudi Arabia to see the big wrestling show, well, it would seem that hope lies in ruins. And what an unexpected development that is, because who in their right mind wouldn't want to take a lovely vacation to the glorious Arabian Peninsula? I would think and this is just a guess, I'm not claiming to have any special insight, that WWE and its corporate overlords are desperate for an excuse to get out of having to go through with Saudi Mania next year. And that excuse will probably have something to do with the military situation in the Gulf. The only question is, how much of a penalty do they have to pay back to the Saudis if they back out of doing one of the events that they agreed to do? But then it's difficult to predict what WWE will do about anything anymore because they are just one asset in a much larger corporate portfolio now, and it gets more unmistakable with each passing year. They are now, to use the most obvious parallel, the same thing that WCW used to be. The very same thing that hastened WCW's decline and its ultimate demise. Don't get me wrong, Vince McMahon is a very weird, very creepy dude. He stands accused in the civil courts of acts that are too shockingly depraved to discuss on a civilized program, or for that matter, even an uncivilized program like this one. But when Vince McMahon was, to use the fashionable industry parlance, the final boss, so to speak, when he was the ultimate decision maker on all matters great and small, those decisions were being made by a wrestling promoter who didn't have any other job except being a wrestling promoter and occasionally taking a Stone Cold Stunner and a chair shot to the head every so often. But that's not important now. The important thing is things change, and they change rather markedly when that decision-making authority passes out of the hands of the third-generation pro wrestling impresario and into the hands of a corporate board of professional venture capitalists for whom the wrestling promotion is merely a set of figures on a big balance sheet. Vince McMahon understood certain things that have quickly been lost, and to the company's detriment. He may have been willing to cross just about every line of good taste and social propriety that ever existed, but he was also insistent, intransigent even, that the events have to be within the price range of normal people to attend, and families with kids in particular, because you can't build a multi-generational audience without that. But the new decision makers, the TKO Incorporated bros, Ari Emanuel and his friends, they look at Vince's books and they go, this guy was an idiot. He wasn't maximizing his ticket revenue as much as he could have been. What a dope. And these people don't give a shit about the product. They are not wrestling fans. They are not running a family business. All they see is a world defined by wringing every last dollar out of your asset portfolio that can possibly be wrung out of it. And if the asset starts underperforming because you wrecked it with your cynicism and your short-sightedness, who cares? Just dump it and go get a better, shinier, prettier asset to take its place, just like politicians do with their wives. And speaking of that, I think a lot of people are checking their watches to see how long Mrs. Swalwell is going to hang around. I mean, it's one thing to live with the knowledge that your husband is a serial philanderer, but it's a whole other thing to find out he's basically the bastard love child of Bill Cosby and Harvey Weinstein. It'll be fun, though, I think, to watch the lengths to which the media Democrat complex goes to pretend that Swalwell never existed, because you know they are going to memory hole this guy quicker than you can say, what in the name of Anthony Weiner is going on here? And all of his friends who are running for re-election, all the people who knew him best and spent the most time around him, they will swear up and down that they never saw any indication that he wasn't a devoted husband and a fine, upstanding public servant. Not even the weird Sonny Crockett stubble beard raised any suspicions. You know, Swalwell, I think, is a great object lesson in what happens when hubris meets stupidity. This dude had a charmed life that he could have kept living indefinitely. The party machine and the fake news media, but I repeat myself, would have been happy to keep concealing his activities just as long as he accepted his natural ceiling. As the dim-witted backbench congressman you can send on CNN to talk about the fifth most important story of the day that the party leaders can't be bothered with. You'll never be in leadership. They're never going to give you any really important assignments, but as long as you know your role and stay in your lane, you could have kept that seat until you were 80 and sexually predated all the women you liked, but not our man Eric. He just couldn't do it. He had to get ambitious. He had to start indulging delusions of upward mobility. And then he became an inconvenience to the very same party machine that protected him all those years. One almost wishes one could be a fly on the wall in the room where Pelosi gave the order to defenestrate his goofy ass, and the room where she ordered the hit on Joe Biden. I think it was the same room. Do you think it's the same room where Mr. Pelosi hangs out when he decides to stay home and get hammered? Let's put it to a vote in the chat, shall we? And in the meantime, that is just about all I've got, which means it is time for me to convey you into the custody of my distinguished colleague, your illustrious co-host, the one and only Mr. Caucasian Sasquatch.
Nuke incoming!
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Blast Radius. And tonight he's going to talk about TV shows, movies, a movie. I'm going to talk about random stuff that crosses my mind. And I've got one video about a chick who doesn't believe in taxes. Go figure. Full circle on that left side, right? So, what's up, Cap? How are we doing today?
Is it true if I decamp to a different country, then I don't owe my taxes anymore?
I imagine they'll accept those taxes just as readily as the IRS.
Because damn it, that's the way it should work.
I don't particularly disagree, but I am absolutely in love with this idea. What's the name of that island? In the Hormuz?
The Strait? Oh, Karg.
Karg, that's right. That's right. Okay. So I had heard Karg mentioned, but I didn't realize that it was an island. I thought it was like a city or something like that, right?
Well, yeah.
It was just in passing.
The way it works basically is Iran has no deep water ports on their Persian Gulf coast, so it's impossible to load up big oil tankers. But there are deep water anchorages around Karg Island. So what they've done is built oil pumps, underneath the strait out to the island, and that is where the oil tankers park to take their loads on and then depart out through the strait and the Gulf ultimately. So you grab Karg Island, like I said, you've got their balls in a jar. You control the whole thing. They never send out a single drop of oil that isn't at your pleasure, and I think that's probably the road of ruthlessness that we would do well to go down.
Right. Okay. No, I don't disagree. I had thought there were 2 deep water ports over there, but there's not even one.
Not to my knowledge, no.
Okay.
Yeah, they had the so they basically had the engineering challenge of do we dig ourselves some deep water ports, or do we just use the island and build some pipes out there? And they ultimately opted to do the latter.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is, you want to talk about a choke point. That island is even a bigger choke point than the Strait of Hormuz itself, because that's where the whole kit and caboodle happens, man. Is that's 100% of the supply comes out of that little island. So go freaking grab it.
Yeah, I had heard someone else make a similar, or I guess in retrospect, it was exactly the same strategic decision. He was like, "Nah, dude, you take Karg and it's not a problem." And I was like, "What would it take to take Karg?" I thought he was talking about a city, right? Like a port was what I was thinking. And he's like, "Probably fucking SEAL Team 6 and 2 Marine units, and we got it." And I was like, seriously? He's like, yeah, they can't have a whole lot on that island, and even if they do, we just blow the fucker flat and rebuild what we need there, and we could do that in 96 hours or so. He's like, either way, it closes everything down, and it's no longer a problem in any direction ever again. We just own it.
Yeah,
I say we voted in as a 52nd state.
Taking it would be no problem, like you said. We would want to hold the shit out of that thing. Like I said, make it a stone frigate, make it an unsinkable aircraft carrier, make it a permanent forward operating base. In addition to having all of their oil supply in your grip and having that under your control, it also, in strategic terms, just makes everything easier when trouble pops off in that area of the world. Because, like I said, you don't need to send a fucking carrier task group every time, because you've got your stone frigate out there with all the assets already on it that you need. And boy, would that advance the cause of world peace, in my opinion.
Right. I don't disagree. So an interesting conundrum occurred with my autism. I was looking at various things like the price of oil by the barrel and the price of gas, and noticed a distinct disjunction between the two. And I'm wondering if I may have sussed out the reason why. You did notice that the price of oil went down, like $26 a barrel or something like that, $16 a barrel.
Yep.
And there was typically, when that happens, since our refinery capacity is still exactly what it was before, that would imply a drop in price 3 to 5 days later, right? Didn't happen. I mean, there was a drop, but it wasn't commensurate with the drop in the price per barrel. And I got looking at it and was like, that's weird. It's like somebody's got their thumb on the scale or something, right? Well, there's two ways to finance an invasion. One is by cutting as much fat off of it as you can at the outset. And the other is to offset the cost of said mobility through basically probably unconstitutional market manipulation. But hypothetically speaking, if somebody wanted to, I don't know, invade Cuba, how would you offset the price of doing that? One of the ways would be to kind of hold the levers of power a little bit longer on the price of crude. And that would have a trickle down effect on your entire infrastructure delivering into an island that's 300 miles off the coast of Florida or something like that?
90.
Can't remember. 90 miles. Oh, wow. Fucking shit. 90 miles off the coast of Florida. And you can put a whole mountain of freaking, third mountain division in the Cuban jungle so fast to make your head spin, right?
Sure.
And poof, we've got yet another unsinkable aircraft carrier sitting in the Gulf of America, just guarding our interests.
Yeah.
What you reckon?
I mean, look at how valuable and convenient of an asset it's been having Guantanamo for all these years, that we pay $1 for rent every year and they don't even cash the check. Imagine having a friendly government in Cuba and being able to expand that footprint and that capability. And yeah, you could expand it from a little tiny foothold to a really big, glorious stone frigate, unsinkable aircraft carrier. And yeah, it sounds like just a trifling little distance, 90, 100 miles. But when you can project power that much further out, that makes a difference. It always makes a difference. You want to project power out as far as you possibly can. And that's kind of in keeping with why I want to go grab that damn little island.
Right. Well, there's a whole different side to the Cuba question. Cuba is not a small place. It's a fairly densely populated nation, and they're not uncultured swine like some would have you believe. They are actually fairly well-educated Western civilians. And hold on, I have a donation. Scotty Waddles, thank you, sir. Much love. I'm going to give you Anna. You want Anna? You're getting Anna.
Give me the money. Give me the money. Okay.
Okay.
Scotty
Thank
Waddles,
you, sir.
You are a legend, my friend.
And on your end too. Lovely.
Thanks,
we both
buddy.
respect you and think, oh yeah, we'll do that. That's another good one. Yeah, I love you.
This one's for you, buddy. Nice.
This one's for you, buddy. Nice.
Absolutely.
That's how it's done right there.
That's beautiful. So with Cuba, if you were to eliminate the sanctions and simply open it as a nation, there would be a ginormous explosion of trade and interaction and movement and money and tourism. And
there would be
unbelievable amount of tourism.
There would be a big sucking sound of that entire island just freaking absorbing money.
Yes. Yeah. And hand over fist, blank check.
Yeah. God, man. Open up those casinos again, get some U.S. tourism going. You tell me how quickly they'd forget the Castros.
Right? So imagine, if you will, rather than it being merely freed, as it were, because as I understand it, the guys running the joint now isn't quite as much of a Castro as Castro was. So, some things have improved, some things have not. But that
I mean, we're just about in the third generation of the revolution now, aren't we?
Moist. And so it would be very interesting to see, say, I don't know, a democratically elected president take over current command of their military and infrastructure, and what that would look like in its aftermath. Not only would it be a license for them to print American money, but it would also be, like you said, a projection of power closer to South America, and something a lot of people don't get. That 90 miles doesn't sound like a whole bunch, but you're talking 280 miles to the nearest airstrip that can lift off a C-130. And you take that same C-130 and put it on Cuba and lift it off, and we've projected 140 miles further easily.
Yep. And that makes a difference.
And it's like an umbrella, right? The ability to drop a spooky on somebody's head, anywhere within that distance, means that everybody who's being shysty has to keep looking up.
Anytime you have an operating base that is forward of your actual mainland, that's a good thing to have. That's a thing you always want to have. You want to grab every single one of those that you possibly can grab, and we're fortunate to have quite a few of them left over from the war. You know, conquest has its privileges.
Which was why I say manifest globalism to fight globalism.
Make manifest destiny global again.
All of those global bases we have out there around the world, they just declare themselves individual states and go about taking over the country they exist in.
Exactly. We'll fulfill Obama's dream by having 57 states.
Exactly. We'll just start with 57. Nice round, odd number, you know.
We need to give them all really obnoxiously jingoistically American patriotic names.
That was what I was trying to remember earlier. I was talking about the whole jingoistic thing. I couldn't come up with that freaking name, and it was killing me, bro. All right, so before we get into the whole Nuremberg thing, because I'm pretty sure that's going to take a pretty good chunk of this, let's take an alternative history pitch.
Okay.
Right? World War I, lines are being drawn on the map. Palestine is included, and includes Syria right next to them. Includes a bit of that and a bit of this, and doesn't piss anyone off, right? If there was a Palestine structure in place today, would there be this entire shenanigans going on between these two nations?
It's one of those questions that it's impossible to answer without pissing someone off. You know what I mean?
Well, sure.
Anything I say here, somebody in the chat is going to hate me, but that's fine. I'm used to it. And I'm not sure if that question permits of an easy answer, because the fact of the matter is, whether anybody wants to acknowledge it or admit it or not, the idea of a Palestinian identity as the idea of Palestinians being a distinct ethnic group really doesn't emerge except as opposition to the existence of the state of Israel starting in 1948.
And if, correct me if I'm wrong, the lines that were drawn on the map post-war pretty much erased Palestine as a thought process, displacing most of them into Syria. Correct? That is the one. Syria is the one that's next to Jerusalem. Israel.
I don't think the boundaries of the Palestinian mandate actually changed. I guess they must have. But the main thing that arose from the Versailles Treaty are the current boundaries, which are the most nonsensical boundaries in the world, of Iran, Iraq, and Syria. And like I was talking about in the monologue, you've got that whole Kurdistan region that's straddling the borders of all three of those. They were just never taken into account during the drawing of those lines at the Franco-British cocktail party, but they should have been. If there had been an independent Kurdish nation state since 1919, I think that area of the world would be significantly better off right now. And I know it's counterfactualism requires a lot of speculation, but I don't see any reason in which it couldn't be better. And especially since in all three of those countries, and Turkey for that matter, the Kurds have really dealt with a lot of shit being
Yeah.
an ethnic minority that is misliked and not trusted by the ruling authorities in the capital.
So I meant to bring this up earlier when when you covered that. I actually wrote it down over here and then lost it. But the whole way that the Kurds have been treated over the past freaking 100 years is an absolute travesty. I'm not aware of conflict that occurred in that region that didn't involve the Kurds more or less being on the side of the West in almost every
Yep.
case.
They
And
always have been.
it's kind of damning, I think, to us, while we have supplied them with various munitions and support and various things, training and whatnot, allegedly. We've never really laid the plunger down to actually create them, to king build them, to nation build them a homeland where their people, much like the Jews, could recoalesce and end this diaspora, right? And I think that's sad. So here's my idea. Let's take Karg, give it to the Kurds.
It's almost like we prefer the idea of the Kurds being a stateless people because that makes them effective when we need to rile up an insurgency in one of those countries. If they had their own dedicated nation state, they would have no reason to be insurgents. They wouldn't be an oppressed minority, and sometimes they wouldn't be as convenient for our purposes when we decide to have a new military adventure in that region for one reason or another. And I could totally picture our establishment thinking that way. And the result, of course, as you say, has been completely awful. And it's really a shameful chapter in our own diplomatic history because we have made assurances to those people. We've made assurances over and over and over and over again that we've never lived up to. And that's why I said in the monologue that you can't begrudge these people, I don't think, the right to maybe keep some of those weapons for themselves, because who knows what the Americans are actually going to do afterward. It doesn't matter what they say now. They're never. It's almost the same way we dealt with. It's almost the same way we dealt with the fucking Indians.
That's what I was thinking to say. That would be like getting upset because a handful of Apaches kept a few of our guns this go round, right? We're dealing with cartels and stuff, and we somehow get the Apaches involved in the deal. They're going to be middlemen, yada, yada, yada. And they just happen to now have an Abrams tank and a handful of guns. You couldn't really be too terrible, but it'd be like, well, you win some, you lose some. What do you do? At least there weren't any blankets in this batch.
And yeah, we could... Man, that was a costly cocktail party, because wouldn't it look so much nicer if there was a nice, stable U.S. ally, 30 million in population, right in the middle of that whole powder keg, keeping things nice and calm and serene with their own military forces and everything.
As I understand it, that's kind of the idea that they had with putting Israel there and doing everything that's been done since then, was to keep their dirty little fingers in the region without having to really explain why. I don't understand why the same concepts and motifs that were utilized to push the creation of Israel in that area can't be utilized for the Kurds. Except for, as you said, they make great mercenaries, and they can't be mercenaries if they have a homeland.
Right. And as long as they are a stateless people, then it's easier to get out of them whatever it is we want at the moment. So maybe let's just keep the status quo intact and make whatever false assurances we need to make, and we'll just try and kick the can down the road as many times as possible. And I don't like it when we are not honest brokers, and I don't think we have been honest brokers with the Kurds, and I think that's to our discredit as a nation.
Well, Crack Baby has this is actually the guy's name. Don't freak out on me. His name's Crack Baby Go. That's his YouTube name. Apparently, it's a military moniker, but anyway, he says, "Who do you want our ally though? Because Bagel People hasn't been a great ally." And I kind of disagree, but I also kind of agree. They have been up until, say, the mid 60s to 70s, right? Once that 7-day war went off, after that, things have been kind of who's driving the cart here? Is it the horse or the cart? I don't know. Because the power shift in that region has been kind of odd and sort of strange, which I guess makes a little bit of sense when you consider that they have spent the past 100 years now recollecting the diaspora from before. And that included an awful lot of property, money, management skills, various three-letter agency type operation and tactics and strategies. And it was for all of the horrible things that have happened to those people, the diaspora brought them back together as a stronger and more unified unit, because they know how it is to be a stateless people.
Yeah, it's like a reverse brain drain, basically.
Exactly. And I imagine, and I don't know how big Karg Island is. I don't know if this is actually a legitimate suggestion, but if you called up the Kurds and was like, hey, why don't y'all go take Karg Island and we'll come like put a base on it and it'll be yours from now on. How long you reckon it'd take them to take it? Could they?
I'm looking up the dimensions of Karg right now. I'll have them in just a second.
So, hypothetically speaking, you carve a chunk out of, say, right along the coast, of course, obviously, because you got to give them coastal property, right? I mean, they're in the desert.
I don't want to make them leave their homeland, though. I would feel bad about that.
But how do you? Go ahead.
Well, I can't imagine anybody is too very emotionally attached to those stupid borders that were just imagined into existence at the aforementioned Franco-British cocktail party. But I think if you gave an attractive enough package and offered it to the leaders of Syria, whoever they are, and Iran and Iraq, we should be able to get agreement from Iraq, since they're a government that we installed. I would like to think that way. Just little carve out from each one. Maybe we'll give them a nice chunk of cash. Maybe we'll give them something else that they happen to want. Maybe we'll give them
infrastructure.
Maybe we'll give them favorable trade deals to build new, much needed infrastructure, or send scientists and experts to help them with something they need help with and do it free of charge. There's plenty of ways to talk people into giving a little chunk of their country up that they're not using anyway. They don't really want to have much to do with the Kurds. There is a reason why the Kurds live mostly autonomously off by themselves. They don't have any attachment really to any of those three countries. They like themselves. They like Kurdistan. They like Kurdish people. So just let them build a fence around the place is all I'm saying.
I mean, it seems perfectly legitimate, but then again, I guess if you were to and if you were to show up here and be like, hey, by the way, you remember North Dakota? Yeah, it's Canadian now. We're going to make it Quebecois, and all the Quebecois are going to be moved to that area, and it's going to be like a reservation. Which, let's be honest, this is kind of what we're talking about here, but it's like a reverse reservation, right? I guess we would take on the responsibility of protecting that area for some amount of time in the future from foreign aggressors. And I don't necessarily have an issue with that. And it might sound a little bit savage, but these people have run the deserts red with blood, fighting for causes that are only tangentially their own. And
absolutely right.
I think they deserve the respect that they've earned.
Yep. Okay, Karg Island, 16 miles off the coast, 7.7 square miles. So I don't think you're 30 million Kurds there is all I'm saying.
we might need a little bit more real estate than that, bro. I'm sure they're all... Go ahead.
Current population is a little over 8,000, and I think that's primarily people who work in the oil stuff.
Half of them are Americans.
Yeah, that technical term, oil stuff. Anyway, you know what I mean. Most of them labor in support of the loading and offloading of oil tankers, shall we say? I guess mostly the loading. So yeah,
logistics.
you build a pipe 16 miles out to the island, and you pump all the oil out there, and the tankers park, and you load them up. Seize that little island. Like I said, balls in a jar, testicles in a vice. Any metaphor you want to use, they are completely. And if we're, like I said, if I don't think it's a good idea to leave the Islamic Republic in place, but if we are settled on that's what we're actually going to do, then you have to grab that island. You can't not grab that island, is what I'm saying, if you're going to leave the Islamic Republic in place. What's
the counter strategy? What does Iran do to make that an impossibility?
Well, the basic rebuttal to the idea is that the island is too small and too close to the coast in order to effectively defend it when there are, hostile forces sitting right on the mainland. But that ultimately, I think, would be a function of how effectively we have decimated their ability to make war. If we have decimated their ability, go ahead.
Have they ever seen a C-130? They are where we have Apache helicopters, right? I'm just saying,
so.
we have Tomahawks that aren't even nuclear. That sounds like a bullshit proposition. I do feel like, a handful of Marines and with the right equipment, well supplied, and that island don't fall. It just don't. So what's the next? If they can't take it back, if that's impossible, then what do you do?
You mean if we have it and they can't take it back?
Right.
Then they have to do exactly what we say, which is kind of the whole point of the idea.
You are Iran. You're trying to figure out how to neutralize the fact that the U.S. has taken that island. Now what?
Attempt to surreptitiously dig a deep water port on the mainland? I don't know. Might. But obviously we would detect them doing that and
yep.
Interrupt the process with the skillful application of high explosives.
But, yes, high speed, high explosives. Right. But on the other hand, let's say we do something that doesn't actually cripple any of the infrastructure and doesn't interfere with anything that's going on. Counter move. Turn off the tap. Let China and Russia start getting pissy.
Yep.
They will eventually have to take action eventually. My question, is it Russia or China first? Or does China go for Taiwan and then try to roll over into Karg after that?
Now, that is the crucial crux of the matter, isn't it? Because there's a reason why I tried to establish the linkage between the Iran thing and the China thing, because I think they are linked. And I think Trump likes to view geostrategic matters in terms of linkages. And that's why I think the idea of grabbing that island should be so attractive to him, because you can turn the screw on the Iranians to improve their behavior, and you can at the same time turn the screw on the Chinese to improve their behavior. It is the best strategic thumb screw that we could ever have under our own national screwdriver. The way the world currently sits.
Okay, so hypothetically speaking, China triggers first. Do they hit Taiwan first, or do they try to flex in Hormuz? Because here's the thing: they're already 20% undergrade, which means that their military is eventually going to run out of fuel because they won't have the mobility capabilities, because the civilians would have consumed what they're going to consume, and the military is going to consume what it consumes regardless. Where are we at in a week?
I think the answer to that question really depends on how much confidence the Chi-Coms actually have in the People's Liberation Army Navy. I know it's a stupid thing to call your Navy, but that is actually the name of their Navy. The point being, do we think the Chi-Coms are confident in the ability of their Navy to go all the way halfway around the world to the point where the genesis of the problem exists from their view, and actually try to project power against our Navy, which has a track record of actually defeating other navies, a track record which their Navy obviously lacks? I think they would be far more confident in their own prowess if they were just crossing the Strait of Taiwan to take that, instead of going what 8,000 miles to
Right.
get to the Persian Gulf. That would be a big gamble for them. That might wind up being almost as disastrous of a gamble potentially as the voyage of the Russian 1st Pacific Squadron that culminated in the disaster at the Battle of Tsushima. Don't you?
I don't see it working out for them trying to flex on Hormuz. I don't see that happening. On the other hand, I don't see Russia being in a position to do much of dick about it.
I don't think they can either.
They, without literally instigating World War III, that's what it would take. They would have to hit a hardened American infrastructure on land. That would be the only way to take that on. You'd have to kill every man there. Yep. There'd be almost no survivors, and you that would create a situation very much like the aftermath of Pearl Harbor. You would have every red-blooded American, regardless of skin color, that can pick up a rifle, going and signing up because that shit was dirty and it shouldn't have happened. Even given the economic warfare that we're currently waging against an entire world.
And let's bear in mind also that forgot what I was going to say. Go ahead.
It's there is a pretty, it can be taken, right? Like if you throw enough meat at the machinery, you can grind the gears. I don't know if they have that much meat in Iran that's willing to run straight into machine gun fire. But we have largely mechanized our murder on an industrial scale. And as sad and depressing as that idea might be, it does function effectively as a projection of our instincts and ideals into enemy territory that they can't deal with.
It seems remarkable since you brought up, the whole idea of human wave attacks. It seems remarkable that as brand new as the Islamic Republic of Iran was in 1980-81, just a year or two old, that they were still able to get that many young men to participate in human wave attacks. I
think those days are over.
Because you've got a pretty clear choice there. You can either say, okay, I'm going to march into the Iraqi guns to a certain death, or you're going to turn around and you're going to kill the fucking guys who are ordering you to march into the fire. I'm surprised that never happened. I'm surprised there weren't massive revolts, even among unarmed people. If there's that many of them and they all decide they want to kill you, they're probably going to succeed. Even if you've got guns and they don't, sure, some of them will fall, but fewer than if they actually try and go charging the Iraqi machine guns with no weapons in their hands. It seems like trying to kill their commanders would be a much safer bet, is all I'm saying.
Also, if they go attack the Iraqis, they die tired. Over here, we could die rested.
Yeah, and there's that. Or we can die at home and rested, or in a foreign country being exhausted.
Right, and none of these are good decisions, and I'm not really promoting any of this. It's an unfortunate situation.
I've always found it remarkable that regime, even when it was on such unsure footing still and so brand new, was able to command that kind of fanatical devotion in that many young men. Because, up until that point, to most of the world, the Islamic Revolution came as kind of a surprise, and it didn't originate necessarily as an Islamic revolution. It originated as a general revolt that involved lots of different people with lots of different worldviews and lots of different interests and lots of different priorities. It was successfully co-opted by the Islamists, of course, and turned in ultimately to an Islamic revolution. But there still exists the fact that afterward, you've still got a hell of a lot of Iranians who preferred living a secular life and aren't necessarily such fanatical Muslims that they want to go die for Allah in a hail of machine gun fire. So it is a remarkable achievement. However, they managed to pull it off. I mean, if you want to call it an achievement, I know it involves a lot of death and suffering, but still, they pulled it off. They made all those people march, charge those machine gun nests, not holding any guns, and they kept doing it. How do you pull that off? I don't know.
I don't
How
either.
do you induce that kind of fanaticism in a populace that before that really wasn't all that fanatic? The Persian people were never really Islamic fanatics, historically speaking. A lot of them, there's still a cultural memory among the Persian people that kind of resents the Islamic conquest, because, like we always talk about, cultural memory lasts a long time.
That is true. All right. So that was an interesting purview on the great Middle Eastern conflict of the past 5,000 years. How about that movie?
Give me your opinion of Rami Malek.
As an actor, I've got nothing against him. As an activist, I kind of I don't really follow him. I've never really heard anything he has to say about idealism, but at the same time, he does seem like a type. He's Egyptian, right?
I think that sounds right. I will look him up to be sure. Rami Malek.
Right? I think so. I think I
Yep.
looked him up. Right.
American son of Egyptian immigrants. So you had it
There
right.
you go.
I found him so incredibly fucking annoying in this movie. It made me want to scream at times. Granted, there are other things wrong with the movie. There are a lot of really on the nose exposition dumps that I could have gone without. I know not everybody is approaching it with the same knowledge level of the subject that I have, but still, I couldn't help finding some of it annoying. The thing that surprised me was that I thought Russell Crowe was the best thing about the movie. I thought his performance as Hermann Goering was really quite good. He managed to do the thing that I think is the highest compliment you can give a famous actor, and that's by the second act and the third act, I was no longer focused on the fact that it was Russell Crowe. He had disappeared into the character because the performance was that good. But Rami Malek, my God, I couldn't think of an example of an actor in a movie that I found more out of place than he is in this movie. And I just couldn't stand it. I felt like he was chewing the scenery and I almost felt like he was trying to be 21st century man in this World War II movie. Like they almost, when he was out of uniform, they almost dressed him up like he belonged in 2020 something and not in 1945. It really was quite weird. There's nothing understated or subtle about that performance. And they do from time to time use him as sort of a mouthpiece for 21st century woke ideas. They don't really lean into it that hard, but it's unmistakable that it does happen from time to time. I couldn't stand him in this. If they had put anybody else in that role, I would like it better. And the thing I'm comparing it to when I'm watching the movie is the 2000 TNT miniseries with Alec Baldwin as Bob Jackson and Brian Cox as Goering, which I'm sure you've either seen or heard of. It's a really great miniseries, one of my favorite miniseries ever. There are some things wrong with it, some things that they shouldn't have got wrong, but that's a trifling complaint, I guess. But I've always liked it, and that's what I'm comparing this to. I don't think this movie is as good as that miniseries, but I wasn't expecting it to be. I would give it a C+. If they had anybody but Rami Malek in the Rami Malek role, I probably would be willing to give it a B-, but he dragged it down by a full letter grade, I think. I don't think it's unfair to say that. And I didn't like him as Freddie Mercury either. I know he won an Oscar or some shit. I'm just saying.
I actually kind of liked him as Freddie Mercury. I can't really think of anyone else that I would have cast in that role myself.
It is a tough casting assignment. Don't get me wrong.
I didn't expect him to do well as Freddie Mercury, but he did better than I expected, and so I call it a win. All right, I'm going to play the trailer.
Okay.
Justice Jackson?
They captured Hermann Goering alive.
What are they going to do with him?
You are standing inside a secret military prison. It houses what's left of the Nazi high command.
Hey! Never do that in my prison again.
The governments of Russia, France, Great Britain, and our United States will put these men on trial for their lives.
It can't be done. There's no international law to base the charges on.
The world needs to know what these men did.
Dr. Kelly, Central Command thinks you're some kind of hotshot head shrinker. You will inspect and ensure the prisoner's mental health. The one you'll have to watch the closest is Goering.
He was appointed Hitler's successor in 1939 and is the highest-ranking German military officer of all time.
He's highly intelligent,
Charming, and a narcissist.
I am going to escape the hangman's noose.
very sure of yourself.
No man
There he is.
has ever beaten me.
You want to know why it happened here? Because people let it happen.
Anything less than total victory will be considered utter defeat. You have to be flawless. I'm going to put Hermann Goering on the stand, and I'm going to make him tell the world what he did.
Are you gonna defend yourself?
What would you have me say?
How about the truth for once?
I am a prisoner because you won and we lost.
Not because you're morally superior.
I know more about this man than anyone else on the planet. You're walking into a trap.
We are able to do away with domestic tyranny only when we make all men answerable to the law. So that it can never happen again.
All right.
Some of the casting I really liked. I liked, for example, it never would have occurred to me to cast Michael Shannon as Bob Jackson, but I think it was an interesting choice that wound up working out. He didn't do the mustache. I wish he would have done the mustache, but he really, from certain angles, kind of resembles him more than I ever would have guessed. That was a good cast. Some of the casting is quite weird. John Slattery as Colonel Andrus seems totally out of left field. Colonel Andrus did not have gray hair. He always wore his helmet. Slattery never wears his helmet, which you're portraying a guy who always wore a helmet. I want you to wear the damn helmet. Can we have that much historical accuracy at least? I know you want everyone to see that it's John Slattery, but come on. Give me the basic level of attention to detail. Let him wear the helmet. He was very fastidious about wearing his helmet. He would be outraged to be portrayed otherwise, is all I'm saying.
He'd say he was out of uniform.
He lived every day the rest of his life beating himself up over the fact that Goering outsmarted him and managed to commit suicide. It was the darkest thing in his entire life.
I'm gonna have to check it out. I was intrigued by that, and the idea of Gladiator. What's his freaking name? Russell Crowe.
Russell Crowe
playing that. Yeah, no, I wouldn't have pictured him very good in that role, but here we are.
Yeah, I mean it's not your natural instinct getting an Australian to play German, but I'll be damned if he didn't pull it off. Pulled it off really. I'm not even particularly a Russell Crowe fan, but I thought he did really, really well with this.
Well, that's how I feel about the other guy playing the Freddie Mercury. I wasn't a huge fan of his, and I didn't expect very much of him. And then he, if nothing else, he certainly put his heart into it.
And that's a difficult role to play too, because Goering was a very charismatic personality and a very bright man and very complicated man and difficult to figure out. You have to you take that role and you kind of have to. I think you have to probably go down some rabbit holes that you would prefer not to go down when you're trying to inhabit a figure of such unmistakably monstrous evil, but also you have to try and humanize him because he's a human being. I mean, his wife and kids love him. No matter what he's done to the Jews, his wife and kids still love him. You have to depict that. That's part of the history, right? So, and
yes,
to play the character, you have to try and nail both sides of it. I'm sure the instinct is to just play the evil man as evil, but life is not as simple as we would like it to be. A lot of evil men have been very well liked by their wives and kids. As much as we would like it to be otherwise, that's how it is.
It turns out that monsters aren't actually monstrous. They look like your next door neighbor named Bob.
Yep. Yeah, they are not always two-dimensional caricatures, as much as we might like them to be, as much as we might find that reassuring. And that goes for Nazis too. Even though we are accustomed to Nazis being the automatic shorthand for the epitome of human evil, again, things are not always as simple as we would like them to be, and the shorthand is not as convenient as our preference might like it to be. So,
right.
But yeah,
And there's really
admire,
no crib notes on evil when it comes down to it.
And I wonder how closely Russell Crowe studied the Brian Cox performance from the TNT miniseries. I would think probably pretty closely, because I think he did take some things from it, but it wasn't an imitation. I think he probably approached it about as well as it can be approached, and I came away, like I said, much more impressed than I was expecting to be. I thought it was really an outstanding performance on his part, which is strange because the few reviews that I had read back when the picture came out in the theaters seemed to indicate that the Russell Crowe performance wasn't very good, and I didn't find that at all. I thought it was the best thing about the picture. So I don't know what those fancy professional critics are looking at, but it wasn't the impression I got at all.
Well, I mean, it just goes to show you that even bad casting can work if you're a great actor. You know, not that it works well, just that it can. You know. Yes, and I admire the willingness of an actor like that, who his other option is to just, keep being aging over the hill action star man, like a Sylvester Stallone or something like that, or I don't know what another good example is, but you know, the action hero who's too old to keep playing an action hero, but he keeps playing an action hero anyway because that's the safest thing he can do. Russell Crowe not taking that approach, going straight for the hard stuff. And I admire that because that's what a real actor does. He's done and I'm not talking about Gladiator or any of that. He's done a few other decent roles. They're escaping my mind right now, but hold on. Oh, I'm reminded of what's it called? A Beautiful Mind. That was yes. A good turn of his. Oh my God, dude, I loved that film. Me too. My wife thought my cheese was sliding off my cracker because I had no idea what it was all about. Somebody had called me up, a friend of mine who's in the movie called me up and was like, hey, you should watch A Beautiful Mind. And I was like, okay, cool. I go by and grab it. We go to the house. I forget I have it. We have it for a couple of days. And I'm like, oh yeah, I got this movie. It's like Sunday afternoon. Just got back from the grocery store. We got a bunch of crap that happened to have some movie popcorn, and we popped up some popcorn, sat down, put it in, and I don't think either one of us actually ate the popcorn. We just sat there and watched the movie. Both of us basically in slack-jawed shock. I remember having a similar experience. I watched it quite by accident without even really planning on it or having any intention to, but I don't remember what the exact circumstances were, but I remember watching it, and yeah, those are sometimes the best movie watching experiences when you watch a thing completely by accident that you didn't plan on watching, and it winds up being really awesome and leaving an impression on you. And sometimes those are the movies that stick with you the most. Have you seen A Waking Life? I don't believe so. All right, so it's kind of niche, but at the same time, if you're ever sitting around and you've literally got nothing to do and you want to kill 2 hours, throw that sucker in there, and like I said, yet again, it'll be over in a couple of hours and you'll wonder what just happened, because it's not a conventional movie. It was created as sort of a test bed for different types of animating methods, and it has guest directors and guest producers and different people doing different tidbits. There's a full Alex Jones rant where he's driving around in a boat in Texas on the street. He picks up the Dreamwalker and takes him on a ride and rants at him the whole time with his microphone. There's another scene where there's this angry dude in a prison cell, and he's talking about how the judge was bought, the lawyer was crooked, the cops framed him, that bitch had it coming. and you're going to suffer 1,000 years of eternal fucking torment for every minute I spend inside this cage. But as he's talking, the camera is panning around the cell, and there is no door on this cell. They couldn't let him out if they wanted to. He is cemented in with bars from roof to ceiling. There is no exit. They can't let him out. It's subtle. It's not something that jumps out at you. I had to watch it a few times before I realized, wait a second. He's just raving at the darkness.
Can I mention one more thing about the Nuremberg movie, or did you have something else you wanted to move on to?
Go ahead.
I was curious as we got toward the end of the picture whether they were going to completely gloss over, as the 2000 TBS TNT miniseries did, the fact that the Nuremberg executions were pretty horrifically botched, because the guy they hired to be the hangman turned out to be just a carpenter who didn't know anything about hanging people. So he built the gallows, but he didn't really understand the difference between long drop and short drop. So he basically wound up he was trying to do a long drop with a short drop rope, and it had two main results. Was that a lot of the prisoners smacked their heads into the front of the trapdoor hole and wound up, undergoing horrific facial trauma. And many of the others, since the rope wasn't long enough to break the neck, they wound up, just sitting there strangling to death in a room full of people, basically. And I thought at first that this new movie was going to gloss over it as the earlier miniseries did, but they kind of did allude to it just a little bit. They show the first execution, which was Julius Streicher, the publisher of Der Stürmer. And so they drop him through the door, and he's kind of still squirming on the end of the line, and the hangman actually descends the stairs, walks in front of all the people, and goes up and actually yanks on his legs until his neck snaps. And that wasn't the only time he had to do that day. And I was glad they didn't gloss over the subject completely. Obviously, you can't show it in its full detail because that would be too horrific, but just they gave us just a little taste of the fact that was really an horrific experience for the people who had to sit there and watch all of those executions, most of which involved blunt force cranial trauma and slow strangulation. But it couldn't happen to a nicer group of guys, so there you have it.
Right? That's are you sure that was an error? I mean,
you raised a fair point. May not have been an error.
I mean, maybe the most valuable troll in the past 10,000 years. I don't know.
I mean, I know there are lots of different specialties in the military, but I should feel like an army that can pull off Operation Overlord should be able to find a sergeant who knows how to hang a dude. I mean, we were still hanging dudes for treason and desertion back then. It seems like we should have had somebody close by at hand who knew how to do this shit, right? Is this just me?
In theory, yeah.
But apparently this carpenter guy who had no experience whatsoever as a hangman, he just managed to bullshit his way into the job because he wanted to be involved in killing the famous Nazis. And I guess he got his wish.
And he's remembered. We got to find his name.
Yep. And he is. I should remember his name, but I don't.
The king of malicious compliance. The grandfather troll of fuck you, I'm gonna do it anyway.
Got it. You want me to read this out?
Go ahead.
John C. Woods was the United States Army Master Sergeant who, along with Assistant Joseph Malta, executed 10 high-ranking Nazi officials on 16 October 1946 following the Nuremberg trials. Known for his proud demeanor, Woods was a controversial figure who allegedly botched several hangings, causing slow strangulation rather than quick death. Reports suggested the gallows were faulty and the drop lengths were too short, resulting in lingering, painful deaths by strangulations. Some witnesses reported that several Nazis, including Field Marshal Wilhelm Keitel, took several minutes to die, fueling debate about whether Woods was incompetent or intentionally malicious, which is the same thing we were just asking.
Right. So, oh boy, malicious compliance. That's what it sounds like. Oh,
Yeah,
my bad. I'm sorry about that.
And if that was if his intent was malicious from the start, that I'm gonna bullshit my way into getting this job, and I'm gonna make these motherfuckers suffer as much as I possibly can. That is, I have to say, that's pretty freaking brilliant. If that's exactly the sort of thing he was trying to pull off, you have to give him a polite round of applause, I think.
You got to score. That's a win is a win. I mean, a win is a win.
Right?
Or maybe do you reckon he was paid to foul it up?
I guess that's a possibility too. And hell, speaking of that, it will always remain a mystery how exactly Goering got the cyanide that he used to thwart the hangman's noose and ruin the rest of Colonel Andrus's life. I mean, we have a pretty good idea which of the Americans went to his luggage and got the thing for him and gave it to him. What we don't know is how he managed to smuggle it in the first goddamn place, or what exactly Sergeant or Lieutenant Wheelis's motivations might have been. I guess he had struck up a fairly cozy friendship with the Reichsmarshal, even though there wasn't supposed to be fraternization between the prisoners and the guards. I guess such things happen anyway. Goering had given him several gifts, and it seems obvious that he was over a long course of time trying to butter him up so that he could later, when the time came, ask him this very important favor, go into my luggage and get my cyanide pill and give it to me. And that's one of the most... Go ahead.
Do you reckon that's what it was? That he was like, hey, go get my murder pill? Or was it, hey, I need the stuffed bear from my grandniece. I'd like to have it with me on my final day. Like, which way does that go?
That's a good question. And most of the things I've read from historians seem to agree that it would have had to be contained in the baggage that he originally brought with him when they arrived in the car to Bad Mondorf in Luxembourg, which is where they were detained originally before they were transported to Nuremberg. And then it would have had to remain in that same baggage, in transit from Bad Mondorf to Nuremberg. It seems like it would have been inspected again before or during or after transit, but you have to wonder how good of a hiding job he did that he was able to secrete the thing somewhere where nobody found it through what must have been many, many, many inspections, I would think, because there was a very strong desire to make sure that none of these guys were able to kill themselves.
I know he did.
Robert Lye pulled it off with the bedsheet noose. He had to be really committed. He did it from a sitting position. It's one of the most inventive hanging suicides in history. You got to give him bonus points for that. But Goering is the only guy who managed to get his hands on cyanide, and
it was in his boots.
Couldn't have been. I mean, where do you put it? Like in the heel?
Probably not. I would put it in the loop at the top, since they're jack boots. They would be like knee high. There's plenty of room. It's just a tiny little pill.
And it's the number one thing they were looking for. And he got one past them. Yeah.
And it might have been one of the few pieces of clothing that they might have given him without much consideration. Search them real good, make sure there's nothing in them, and give them to him so he can wear his fucking jack boots with his goddamn hanging. Right?
Yeah. And it's like we were talking about before, even though the man obviously is the embodiment of pure evil and malevolence, you also can't help admiring him on some level, because he knew as soon as he was in that prison that he was going to die. They were going to hang him. There was nothing could happen in the courtroom that was going to forestall that eventuality, but he still gave himself such a spirited defense that pretty much everybody agreed that he made fools out of the prosecutors. But he, even though he knew there was no chance of saving himself, he did it anyway. He took the approach that, the best thing I've got is to put this trial on record and defend myself as spiritedly as possible. And maybe in retrospect, then people will start to see my point about the fact that this is not a a legitimate tribunal with a legitimate legal basis, which still, you have to say, remains a valid complaint. Everybody agrees with the result, but we were basically inventing law out of whole cloth here. You know,
you want to see a reenactment of the Boston Tea Party done by a liberal woman?
Yes.
I screwed the pooch. I'm a terrible producer. My bad.
Well, I was having a fun, great day at work until the government pissed me off because I had to file my taxes, and I want to die now because all you bitches that are always up in my comments said, oh my God, you don't claim your taxes. I know you don't claim your taxes. One, I do claim my taxes because Mama's been trying to buy a house for about 2-3 years now, and so it's always been up and down, so I've been claiming almost every single dollar that I ever make so that I can get approved for a house and I can make enough money and qualify and all that fun, great stuff. So y'all ready for the grand reveal? Y'all ready? Guess how much money I owe in taxes? Don't want to know. I literally shit my pants. I just had to hit my garden stick to elevate the heart rate, but y'all want to know how much? $17,000. 17,000,000.00. I don't really know the change exactly. I do have a meeting with my tax lady in just a few hours here, but oh my gosh, I want to shit my pants. That's so much fucking money. And you know what? I don't own a house. I don't own a car. I mean, I own my car, but I don't own a house. I don't own anything crazy. I would be negative money after paying my taxes, and I don't have any. So I just want to know, how the does one owe so much money in taxes when they got no money?
Well, judging how incredibly annoying you are.
I love that clip.
Were you playing that on high speed, or was she really talking that fast?
No, I don't think she does breathe, and I think her. No, that's her. That's just it. That's the way it plays.
That is
for reals.
That is a rapid talking chick, dude.
But,
that's like
right, and she's what, 5 minutes away from tossing the tea in the harbor.
Yep, while she's shitting her pants.
Obviously.
Oh my God, guys!
I mean,
I'm gonna shit my pants.
So if you can backtrack this lady's earnings by taking the $17,000 that she owes, and you know, doing the whole 33% thing, and Homegirls has apparently taken on a pretty good chunk of cheese this year. Like, that's a.
Did she say how many years are included in that tax bill?
No, I'm thinking maybe 3 years, because apparently she hasn't been claiming her taxes, and so she did this year, and apparently they have been keeping track, and so here we are. Taxes.
You mean I don't get to keep all my money?
My money? Well, I mean, yes and no. You didn't keep it after.
I have to work 1 day a week for the government?
You get to keep it, but after they get done with it, allegedly.
Yeah.
Man.
Yep. She's right on the verge of upturning those tea barrels, by golly.
Of becoming a Republican. Like, you give her another 15 minutes of research. She's going to have an enlightening moment.
And when she dumps that tea overboard, she is not going to do it while wearing a culturally insensitive Indian costume.
I don't know, man. She seemed pretty mad. If she thought that would help her get away with it, she might.
I would like to see her try a war dance.
Oh, dude. Just go get the, what are the Hopi? No. Faster. Hey, it'd be like those stupid cartoons from back in the day when they were like, "Hey, hurry up!" and they fucking double the speed of it.
I seriously thought you were playing that on 1 1/4 speed. I swear to God.
I'm dead serious. That is straight up how she talks. That's not even a thing, bro. Like, I'll here.
About 2-3 years now, and so it's always been up and down, so I've been claiming almost every single dollar that I ever make so that I can get approved for a house and I can make enough money and qualify and all that fun, great stuff. So you're ready for the grand reveal? Y'all ready? Guess how
That's
much money
crazy.
I owe in taxes?
That's wild.
Don't want to know. I literally shit my pants. I just had to hit my garden stick to elevate the heart rate. But y'all want to know how much? $17,000.
Normal. Perfectly normal. She didn't speed it up. I didn't speed it up. She's just that incensed.
She keeps talking until there is not an ounce of oxygen left in her lungs. And then she goes, and then does it again.
And I bet her boyfriend loves it.
Oh, I know. Wouldn't it be great to come home to that every single day? Can you just imagine how joyous that is? Hi, honey. Tell me about your day. And she shuts up 78 minutes later.
Well, I woke up this morning and I stepped my toe and I stepped on a Lego and we got to deal with some of this climate change. And, you know, Trump is terrible and I hate that man and everything he does is absolutely terrible in the world. And
oh, and did you hear about this? And 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 oh my God. Oh, let me tell you about my lunch.
Right.
Just pop
and
one
at the
right
end
here.
of all that, they didn't even give me my drink at lunch. Isn't that terrible?
Starbucks screwed up my double half calf latte with a twist.
Right. Fucking twist. All right, so we got Iran, white women, Kurds, Nuremberg, Goering.
What do you get when you add them all up?
2026.
Wonder what's going on at WrestleMania right now.
Oh, and WrestleMania. Are you missing WrestleMania?
I am missing WrestleMania.
Oh,
I'm gonna have to watch it later by other means.
You can do the thing and you can go watch your WrestleMania. It's not going to matter, is it?
No.
About 5 minutes. Okay. So 5 minutes. The Boys. Something's missing in this new season. I can't put my finger on it, but I think it might be Mary Sue. At this point, every single chick in the fucking show has become a Mary Sue. They've all basically become absolutely perfect at everything they do. Now, granted, most of them are superheroes, but the smartest woman in the world is the dumbest person I've ever seen written to be smart.
The black chick?
She actually, the black chick. She makes this line. She says this line out loud. How being the smartest woman in the world, she could literally have Warren Buffett licking my clit until he needs, on his knees licking my clit until he needs a knee replacement. If she wanted, out loud, as though that's a flex. Because, I mean, let's be honest. She's not a bad looking woman.
Yeah, I think I made it into the second episode of the 4th season of The Boys, and then I stopped. And she was the main reason why I said, yeah, this show had something going for it a couple years ago, but I think I'm done here. And
right when she showed up, I kind of clocked out too. I did.
Yep. That was just about enough for me.
I give it 3 Smarmalades out of 5. So that woman is Smarmalade.
That's a good call. We haven't had a good Smarmalade reference for some weeks now, so good job.
Yeah, I don't know what's missing in it. I do know that for the first time, and well, not the first time, the good guys are bad guys. The bad guys are not so bad guys, except the worst guys. And I get this really strong feeling of Trump bad throughout the entire thing, although they have excised all of the mentionings of anything related to Trump. Right.
And the bad guys are never really bad because they've had a troubled upbringing and it's not really their fault.
Right. And that's part of what gets me on this is they're all going through their little trauma scripts and victim narratives and stuff. And you're supposed to infer their victimhood from the things that they say. But you're a fucking superhero.
Even if your superpower is being a smart, super sassy black lady who don't need no man for nothing.
Except for apparently, flicking your bean for you.
Yeah. What's Homelander up to these days? Oh, is it that time? Ladies and gentlemen, thanks ever so much for joining us here on the Blast Radius tonight. It was such a joy and a delight to have you. Hope you enjoyed the monologue. Hope you enjoyed the discussion. Hope you have a fantastic day tomorrow and an edifying day on Tuesday and a very satisfying Wednesday. and a great remainder of your week as well. We will see you back here next Sunday, 8 Eastern, 5 Pacific. As we do, we'll have more stuff to talk about. Don't you worry. See you next time. Get off my lawn.
Give me the money. Give me the money, okay?
I need you to work this Saturday.
No problem. I might be late, though. The transports are slow on weekends.
What time will you get here?
Monday.